It's deep dive time here on Sportsbit, and I am very pleased to bring in, I would say, probably the biggest guest we've ever had on the show. We've had some big ones over the years, but Charlie LeDuff is a guy with what? I don't know, he doesn't have millions of Twitter followers, but he has millions of views on his videos on YouTube. He's the former national correspondent for the New York Times and Fox News. He is a best-selling author. He is a Pulitzer Prize winner. He is at Charlie LeDuff on Twitter, and his new book, Shit Show, just came out. We're going to talk about the book. We're going to talk about how it relates to sports betting right now here on Sportsbit. Mr. LeDuff, welcome to the show, my friend. How you been?
Real good, Teddy. How you doing? You covering, man?
Covering more than not, hence the nickname. Of course, Charlie and I go back more than 30 years. I knew him at Michigan. I followed his career throughout the course of his tenure at the New York Times and down in L.A., and then now back in Detroit. We're talking about a guy who's been on the frickin' Tonight Show, a guy who's been on Tucker Carlson, a guy who's been on a bunch of shows, and yet the new book doesn't have anything specifically to do with sports betting, but I thought there was a ton of stuff that we got to talk about. Let's start with this. You're the guy that called Trump over Clinton, and by the way, Hillary was in the minus 1,000 range. That line shifted in an hour on election night from Hillary minus 1,000 to Trump minus 1,000. What did you see, Charlie?
Well, you know what I saw once you put it like that? I saw all the prognosticators freaking out because they lost big time. The point is, the smart money isn't always the smart money. What you have to know, in my business at least, and in your business, you have to know who's at the table. You have to know who's going to be voting, who's coming out, what's going on in the country, what's the dissatisfaction. And what the book really is from the streets and not from the studio. You know what I'm saying? So it's a look at the media, but it's really looking at our time, our money, the future of our children's. It's in the smoke of Ferguson. It's in the Rio Grande on the border when the kids were coming over last time. It's in Flint. It's on the campaign trail with Trump. And what you really have to know is there's a lot of dissatisfaction out there. Still remains. It's going to be here in 2 years. And we're living in an epic and not a cycle.
Yeah, and that's very real when it comes to the level of dissatisfaction out there. The Obama voters were dissatisfaction voters. The Trump voters were dissatisfaction voters, and yet they went for candidates who were almost diametrically opposed to one another when it came to policies. This is not
true,
a policy.
But remember the table you're playing at, right? Look, you've got 9 million white people that went for Obama, that went to Trump. You've got 4 million black people that went Obama that didn't see anything in this for them. That's 13 million. That's what delivered the Rust Belt. So you absolutely have to know that Trump and Obama ran the same campaign, basically. One's more eloquent, maybe, and articulate than the other. But basically, the corrupt elite establishment that Clinton seemed to represent to them. It was the same candidate. They both beat her. And if you don't give people some kind of new path, they're going to do it again. And if they're not seeing it, if the economy turns, this is going to be a perpetual thing. But again, the book is sort of a rock and roll look at the country. It's not about the numbers per se. It's about the guts and soul of this country. Like, how does Flint get poisoned? Flint gets poisoned because contractors, politicians, trade unions want to make some loot. And where is the loot? There's only one pile of loot anymore, and that's the public trough. The financing went bad, and a whole city's poisoned, and the taxpayer that doesn't have much has to bail it out. Nobody's going to day in jail here.
Yeah, and no one will do a day in jail for Flint.
Yeah.
But as it relates to, I would confident, and you have a bunch of great stories in your book, really. The story about all the factories moving to Reynosa after NAFTA. That was a chapter that really stood out to me. I mean, it was a page turner, not just because I know you, and not just because you do crazy stuff when you're out on the road, but because it really details what the middle of the country is doing in a world where all the media attention is on the left coast and on the right coast. And as sports bettors, our audience clearly relates to that You have the big behemoths, the Fox News and the ESPNs and the CBS Sports in the world. But the real money to be made is not always with the wise guys, with the analytics. Sometimes it's just by watching what's going on the ground, watching the games closely. The analytics guys don't get that. It's a similar story in politics, Charlie.
Of course it is, but look, sports betting can be a way of life. It can be a way to make a living, but most of us that do it, we do it for some fun, some amusement, and a reason to watch these damn things. But politics, big money in politics, is serious. That is across the board. It's all of our life, right? So again, my grandpa made the morning line at the Detroit race course, and his method was stay away from the track because this thing doesn't get built on everybody winning. You come here, it's a diversion. Having said that, real life, being real life, watching cities burn, watching droves of women and children come over, watching big cities fall apart as jobs evaporate someplace else. It's more than a game. It's more than a diversion. It's here. So I know your audience, real bright people, real smart people, they got opinions on this. If you want to look at the country, get the book, and it's sort of written for your audience. It is. It's regular people with regular thoughts who are actually quite smart and intelligent.
Yeah, and one thing that I always appreciated about you, Charlie, is that you're not political. You work for Fox News and you work for the New York Times, which is certainly on two different sides of the political spectrum as a national correspondent.
I'm goddamn political, bro. I'm goddamn political. I want something for my kid. But I'm nonpartisan. You know what I mean? I'm going for the best thing in front of me, the thing that makes sense, and I'm for the people of this country. This is my brothers and sisters. That's what I'm about.
I appreciate that. The book, of course, Shit Show, available right now. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it anywhere where books are sold. Charlie, any last thoughts you have for our audience? Anything that you want to share? One thing that stands out to you before we let you go?
Keep your head. Keep your head. Things, if adults, strong American adults, decide they want to keep it together, there's not going to be that big of a problem. You got to remember, we're 50 years out of 1968, right? The Tet Offensive, assassination of King, 100 cities burning, George Wallace, a segregationist, getting 46 electoral votes, the Panthers assassinating cops, the Weathermen blowing stuff up, the Democratic National Convention ending in a riot. It's going to be okay, man. Everybody just relax.
Charlie LeDuff, at Charlie LeDuff on Twitter. Thank you so much for joining us. Best of luck. And it's always great to have a Pulitzer Prize winner on the show. Really glad talking to you, Charlie. Like the show? Help us keep the lights on. Please make sure to comment, share, and subscribe to all the Sportsbook Review videos. Thanks so much. Best of luck. Enjoy the game.